What is going on, you guys? Welcome back to Down to the Wire. I'm your host, Brian Costa, and on today's episode, I am really psyched for what I have in store today. Joining me on the podcast today is an individual who I've known for who I've known for a good couple of years now. At this point, I consider him to be a good friend of mine. We've had a long storied history. But as you know, on the show, I like to interview athletes from all sorts of backgrounds. I've interviewed college pitchers like Tyler Madison at Bryant University, Ronell Joseph, the running back there, as well as many other individuals. But joining me on the episode today is an amateur MMA fighter out of Worcester, Massachusetts. And for many of you guys, you'll know him as Joe McNeil on this show, but I know him as Coach Joe. Joe, how you doing today?
I'm doing well, Brian. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate this.
I really do. I'm really excited to have you on the show today, man. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm feeling good. Less than 6 weeks out now from my fight. I'm sure we'll get into it, but it's great to see you. And just so before we get going, folks, I coached Brian a few years in high school. He wasn't the best hitter, wasn't the best fielder, but guess what? He was one of the fastest kids I coached. So this kid, he could speed, man.
I had some pretty solid wheels. I will say that the hitting it materialized in later years, but obviously in those younger years that did occur. But obviously I'll let you kind of start off by telling the audience a little bit about yourself, kind of your athletic background all around, and what you're kind of doing now.
Yeah, so I'm Joe McNeil. I'm 31 years old at this point.
Mhm.
My journey into mixed martial arts started with jiu-jitsu. As a kid, I was an athlete.
Mhm.
I love baseball, love basketball, and I kind of was always up for a challenge, very competitive.
Yeah.
And then I started watching mixed martial arts, and I started to hear about things, and I like the idea of jiu-jitsu, the smaller man being able to have a weapon against a bigger man, an equalizer.
Mhm.
And I'm all about body types, and like I have the body type for a grappler. So when I was 16, I went to the Jewish Community Center, and I started with Team Link.
Okay.
When Marco Alvin over there and Gabriel Gonzaga. Gonzaga, of course, fought for the UFC heavyweight title back in '08, I believe. But that's where I started at 16 years old. And 2 years later, after winning a few gold medals and, understanding that I was good at this, I had my first fight. And you want me to just go into like the whole story, or you want to just pick it up from there?
I think we can pick it up from there. So, kind of going off that, we talked a little bit about how we met. I found that to be pretty interesting. Kind of going back with this whole thing. The main reason I kind of got interested in doing this interview was I was talking with Chase. I spoke to you about this before the interview, but I was talking with Chase Lindsley, and he had mentioned to me that you're now going into this kind of a full on mixed martial arts kind of standpoint. Going back with it, I remember, I remember you would kind of show us like clips of you competing in jiu-jitsu events, doing different things like that, and it was really interesting to see you kind of doing that doing that at that time. You had also mentioned me before the show that you had fought at 18 years of age, you had done certain things there, but you also had mentioned that you took a pretty substantial time off between your fights.
Yeah. So I went to Anna Maria College, and my freshman year was my first fight, September 5th, 2009.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that vividly. I didn't know much about cutting weight. I was pretty much a jiu-jitsu guy.
Yeah.
So I remember being in the cafeteria at Anna Maria the week of the fight, feeling the worst I've ever felt in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I even remember a phone call from my coach saying, "You don't have to fight, Joe. We have a lot of fights to go." And I was like, "No, I can't let people down. A lot of people have tickets already." So I took that fight. I did great in the first round. I got the big takedown. And then the second round, I came out, and my feet were just flat. I don't know if it was an adrenaline dump or the way I cut weight.
Mm-hmm.
So I lost the second round. I feel like I did well in the third round, but I ultimately lost a decision, my first MMA fight.
Mm-hmm.
The kid was older. He was 24. I was 18.
Yeah.
But I think with the proper technique and understanding about how to lose weight and things like that, I would have been better off. But second fight was a few months later. I won that fight, but I took a lot of shots.
Yeah.
And then I kind of got away from it.
Mm-hmm.
You get caught up with a lot of things, and it's the old story of wasting time and wasting talent. And you're in college, and temptation and desire drags you here. Joe, you want to come here? Let's go do this. Let's go do that. And all the time, I should have been training. I should have been in the gym working on my craft. I'm 31. I wish I was 21 years old doing this with you.
Hmm.
You know, so as I move forward, I'm always thinking about what could have been.
Hmm.
I don't know how long I'm going to do this for,
Yeah.
but all I know is I'm fully engaged in the task at hand,
Yeah.
and I'm looking forward to September 11th.
Yeah. I mean, obviously that's going to be your fight for is it, correct me if I'm wrong, is it the Donnybrook title or?
Yep, Donnybrook Fight Promotions,
Okay.
Battle and Barry 5, September 11th. Tickets on sale. There's going to be an online pay-per-view as well, only for $20. I fought there in December of 2019.
Mhm.
So after my second fight in college, like we talked about,
Yeah.
and then, as you know, I was a pretty good baseball player growing up.
Yeah. You had kind of competed all throughout Sutton, and then you obviously ended up playing a little bit at Anna Marie as well.
So my junior year,
Mhm.
I had a roommate. Well, throughout my college, Tim Henderson. He
Yeah.
was my roommate. Good pitcher.
Mhm.
And I always thought I could compete with those guys. You know, once you see it, it's like, oh, I could have been on that level. Long story short, junior year, third day of tryouts,
Mhm.
I sprinted onto the field in sweatpants. I got a tryout. I threw some pitches, and I ultimately played for 3 years. And I started 2 there at Anna
Mhm.
Maria. It was a great experience. I learned a lot. I met some good people, but again, I probably should have been training the whole time. You know, I should have been on the mats, learning jujitsu, learning fighting, and but you can look back all you want and wonder what if, but I'm still in that window where I have time to accomplish something, and hopefully, what I'm doing this for is, Brian, not just to test myself, but hopefully to open doors for opportunities for me
100%.
because I have aspirations to work within mixed martial arts.
Mhm.
And I already do. We can get into that too with my work with World Championship Grappling alongside Josh Saper.
Mm. Yeah. So, I mean, going off that, I mean, I would probably say, like, while you could look back and say all these things, it's, at that age, it's definitely extremely difficult to kind of set aside, like, to kind of say, like, oh, I want to specifically do martial arts, especially when baseball was as prevalent as it was in your life. Kind of going from there, what was it that, really brought you back in, after baseball had kind of subsided, after everything kind of ended up, ending the way it did? What kind of called you back in that sense?
So in college,
Yeah.
I eventually, my work, I
Mhm.
majored in ultimately elementary education, and I started to work at a residential place
Yeah.
near Anna Maria. I've always worked with kids, youth, mostly troubled youth,
Mhm.
kids with social emotional problems, behavioral problems,
Yeah.
some kids aggressive, self-injurious, all over the spectrum.
Yeah.
And I was playing baseball in college, working an overnight job full time, taking 5 courses. It was just very hard on me.
It's very
I would
demanding.
remember going to double headers in college and sleeping on the bus, getting a few hours of sleep, and just. But I'm such a competitor and athlete. I
Yeah.
tried to just get rid of that. But I started working. I ultimately got a job at Sutton,
Yeah.
and I worked with boys with autism,
Mhm.
and I was in and out of training. And to me, it was like, how people say it's like riding a bike.
Yeah.
Well, jujitsu for me, every time I came back,
Mhm.
it was like riding a bike.
Yeah.
I felt strong. I didn't feel like I lost a step. And then in 2018, I had an opportunity. I had a match in 2016, which I won
Yeah.
in February for World Championship Grappling, but then 2 more years off. And then in June 2018, I had a return match against a very tough guy.
Yeah.
David Weintraub, by the way. He's still a good competitor. I ended up winning that match. 4 or 5 months later, I ended up winning another match.
Mhm.
And then that kind of set the stage for, well, I can still do this.
Yeah.
I can still compete in this format against some good guys. So a year later, in December, I had my return fight. I did extremely well. I got a second round rear naked choke finish, and the experience was great. That's what prompted me to return, though, was the feeling of, you were very good at this. This is one of the only things you really truly love in this world. What you're passionate about, what you're excited to do.
Yeah.
Do it while you still can.
Absolutely.
And for the longest time, whether it was going to a bar for a few hours or going to my buddies, hanging out, in the back of my head, it was, you shouldn't be here.
Mm-hmm.
You should be training. But it's hard, like you said, in your
100%.
early 20s and you get your mid 20s, and then you don't know exactly what you want to do, who you are.
Yeah.
A lot of people struggle with that their whole lives, and but I know one thing. I mean, I shouldn't talk too much more without mentioning this place where I train now.
Yeah, so for anyone watching on YouTube, you might end up noticing that typically I might be recording this in my basement or on a Zoom call or doing whatnot. But for this interview, I decided to actually go on location, and I'll let Joe kind of go into where we're at today.
So 19 years old, I left Team Link, and then I was looking for a place, and I knew the head coach just from his experience and his accolades within the sport, jiu-jitsu and mixed martial arts.
Yeah.
And his name is Dan Simler, and he is the head coach here at Team Abu Sado, right here at 3 Brussels Street in Worcester. This place is an amazing atmosphere.
Yeah.
For any walk of life. We have, like I said, all types of people, and there's just no egos. We're all here. We all compete. We're all we train hard.
Yeah.
But we're all trying to help each other out.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I always like to think it's like how a society should function. We're here. We all have different goals within us being here, whether it's losing weight, competing, self-esteem, fighting. But we all have a general sense that I'm here. I'm on your side. I have your back.
Mm-hmm.
There's no one I'm worried about, at anything.
Yeah.
So a lot of great guys here and girls. I mean, we have tremendous female team, and we have a bunch of little killers, little kid classes. And these kids, I wish I started at 15, 16. These kids are 8, 9, some as young as 4 or 5 starting jiu-jitsu. And this is the trend, Brian, because, growing up, most people karate.
Yeah.
But I don't really like karate.
Yeah.
Only because sometimes I don't think it's practical for mixed martial arts and even street fighting purposes. So we're seeing a trend of a lot of people starting with jiu-jitsu more often. And it's just so good on so many levels for all types of people.
Yeah. For someone, for someone who did do a kind of a Kempo karate background, I can see where that applicability sometimes does come into play. I've noticed that a lot with, certain trends there. But, one of the other things too that, I think a lot of the defensive strategy kind of may be able to play in a little bit better than, some of the offensive stuff that you end up learning, especially with what discipline you go to. I was specifically a secondary black belt in Kempo karate. So I did that until my senior year of high school. But going off that, very similar to kind of the aspect you have here. It's when I was over at Defense Wise Martial Arts Center in Grafton, unfortunately, it's no longer there anymore. When I was over there, it definitely a very large community feel. You always feel like you're a part of something there. Like to this day, like even though the school isn't in function, me and my senseis and me and all the people that I competed with. Well, we have a giant group chat, and it's always like, hey, when are we going to try to hang out? What are we going to do here? It's like, hey, let's go grab a bite to eat. And it's always that kind of an aspect where, I didn't really have that with a ton of other outlets. I mean, obviously baseball teams and things like that, but the community aspect is 100% there.
Yeah, and that starts from the top. Like I said, Dan Simler, what he's created here is nothing short of amazing. And a lot of people are intimidated when they come into martial arts schools, and they feel like uneasy or like timid. But he has a way, and we have a way of really making people feel at home and comfortable. Like I said, Dan Simler, he's a man who I have endless respect for. He's helped me out in more ways than one, and in a lot more aspects than just jiu-jitsu. He's a person I can talk to, look up to, and rely on. And that's what you need in a coach. And what I'm really proud of is I have 2 sisters and 1 brother.
Yeah.
And recently my brother has started training here.
Oh, wow.
He's a year and 3 months older than me. And we've always been polar opposites. I could talk about our differences, but we both work in special education.
Okay.
And now we both train jiu-jitsu together. His name is Ben McNeil. He does great work, and I'm very happy when he's here with me. It's something that is important.
I actually had a very similar relationship as well. I've obviously you probably met my brother Patrick through Thunder and different things like that. And then I also have a sister Allison who is a year younger than me, and she also did karate with me at the same time. We both got our black belts together, and we'd always be in the sparring matches, and oh, I had to hold back because she was my sister, but she wasn't holding back. She was always man, she could really get a kick out there. I will say that to my sister. But we always kind of had sparring matches with each other, and I feel like always the senseis were kind of looking over their shoulder, just being like, all right, what's gonna go down here? Whenever something went down, especially if maybe we were a little pissed at each other that day, maybe something was like that. And once you get the gear on, you let it fly. But it really is awesome to kind of have a family feel like that. You talked about you talked about getting into jujitsu and all those other things. Now training kind of full time with MMA and now doing kind of all around different disciplines. This is a Brazilian jiu-jitsu gym, but you now are kind of fighting MMA fights. What kind of made you want to step from the level of being kind of just a jiu-jitsu guy, kind of just doing the grappling and that kind of a realm, and elevate yourself and say, I want to get inside the octagon?
Well, yeah, when I was 16, I was obsessed with this sport.
Yeah.
And I knew that I was a grappler type of guy.
Mm-hmm.
I found a good school. And going back, my favorite fighters were like Matt Hughes growing up, Frank Shamrock, Ken Shamrock. And then, we get into the Diaz, my
geez.
friend, my favorite is Nick Diaz. A lot of people know about Nate, but Nick's the real guy. And he's coming back in September, which I'm pumped about.
That's
awesome.
awesome.
An understatement. But I always knew I wanted to make the jump.
Yeah.
I always knew jiu-jitsu, see how I do.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up doing well. And then I got an opportunity to fight, and it was kind of just like a natural thing that I wanted to do, had to do. And fighting is so misunderstood by a lot of people. It's like I talked about the people coming here. It's not violent, vicious people who are angry and wanting to hurt people. It's all walks of life with people who just want to get good at a craft, want to learn how to defend themselves, and most intelligent and respectable people come through these doors. And so my first two fights, and then we talked about a third one, never happened. And like I said, 10 years passed. I don't know many people who took 10 years off, but I did. And I don't know how long I'm going to do it for. I have this major opportunity September 11th, and we can get into that.
Yeah.
Specifically, if you'd like.
Yeah, I mean, I 100% we should get into that. I was kind of, after Chase was telling me about, your fighting and whatnot, I ended up going back and he ended up showing me a clip of one of your fights, and I was like, well, goddamn, Joe can kick. My God, it wasn't like me doubting you in any sense, but the last time I've probably seen you fight was those jiu-jitsu clips I think you had shown us like way back in the day, and it was a completely different ball game. Kind of seeing you out there throwing those leg kicks around, doing that, and it was very impressive. And going into your newest fight, it's going to be this September, correct? Yeah, September 11th, as you were saying. Let's hear about what's going into this. This is a title fight, if I'm correct.
So I fought for them December 2019, Donnybrook.
Yeah.
And they were impressed with my performance. I got a lot of compliments, and I intended to fight 2-3 times in 2020.
Yeah.
That was my goal. But then, of course, we all know what happened.
Yeah.
COVID caused a lot of, people to drastically change their lives. So 2020, I never had any fights.
Yeah.
And then 2021, I was just waiting for an opportunity, trying to stay in shape. And I woke up April 5th or 6th, close to Easter of this year.
Okay.
And I got a message from Rex Thompson, the promoter there. And he said, hey, we got you a match against Anthony Alvarenga for the #1 contender for the vacant lightweight belt.
Wow.
So they had a vacant title as Rooney, who's heading the card, Kris Rooney, I think. He vacates the belt. So Rex had an idea of a 4-man tournament to see who fights for the vacant title.
Yeah.
So I was training for Anthony. Maybe I should back up a little bit. I currently work at Millbury Junior Senior High School.
Yeah.
With kids as an ABA technician, applied behavior analysis, kids with autism, kids with Down syndrome. And this summer I decided to take a custodian job.
Okay.
Within the school. Because I work at night. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
And I remember it was a Wednesday or Thursday, two weeks ago now, and Rex messaged me, and he said, hey, would you be open to fighting Romano Medina for the lightweight belt? And at first, to be honest, I was a little hesitant because it's a drastic change, major step up in competition, and it's for a title. So I was with Pete Camarado. He's a good guy too. He works as a custodian there at Millbury.
Oh.
And I was like, hold on, I got to stop working. So I had to take some time, think about it, and talk to some people. And at first I was like, well, I've been training to fight Anthony. What happened? Long story short, some personal stuff with Anthony. Rex decided to pull him from the card, and Medina's opponent pulled out with an injury. So this was the fight. And then as time went by during that day and the following morning, I was thinking to myself, I've been doing this for 15 years. You know, this is a major opportunity. What's the worst that could happen? I mean, and so I said, let's do it. So September 11th, Romano Medina, 5-0, undefeated, who hasn't fought in 3 years, against me.
Yeah.
For the vacant lightweight belt. And, you know, that's all I think about now.
Mm-hmm.
And I talked about how I work at night. So for the last 6 years, Brian,
Yeah.
I've worked as a trivia host.
I've heard about this.
For Wise Guys Trivia.
I have heard about this.
Yeah. So I'm on the microphone.
Yeah.
3 to 5 times a week at various bars and restaurants around Central Mass,
Mm-hmm.
asking questions, meeting people. I've met hundreds, if not thousands of people. I've made great connections, hopefully enduring friendships. I'm working 5 nights this week. This is my 3rd night tonight. I was in Northbridge. I was in Sturbridge. Tonight I'll be in Clinton. Tomorrow I'll be in Worcester. Saturday I'll be in Leicester.
Mm-hmm.
So I go all around. Wise Guys Trivia, folks, if you haven't checked it out. It's pretty fun. You win $25 in bar credit. And you know me, I'm very outgoing.
Oh, I know that 100% that you're very outgoing, Joe.
And I like to interact. And, you know, I like to play to the crowd and be energetic, enthusiastic, and make the experience a good one.
Yeah.
Because a host means being a host.
Yeah.
And my definition of a host is, you know, making you feel comfortable. Don't hesitate if you have any questions, and have fun with it. Play music, have some, you know, test yourself.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be great. Tonight I'm going to have a great time at Clinton. I've been going there for over 5 years. One of my favorite spots.
Yeah, I know I ended up texting you about this interview, and you were like, hey, Brian, I had trivia right now. Can I get back to you? And I was like, oh boy, I better hope he doesn't loop me into a conversation. It's just like it's like what 5'9" radio host just texted me on my phone, and that's awesome though. I mean, you know, going off that, you know, when you end up stepping into the octagon on that day, what's going to be going through your mind? Like, you know, if you had to think about it, you know, from you know, that first fight when you were 18 years old to this time when you're going to be, you know, I don't know what number fight this is for you at this point.
So this will be my 4th mixed martial arts fight.
Okay.
So for my first fight, you know, you're going to be nervous.
Yeah.
It's natural to be nervous, especially when you might get punched in the face, kicked in the nose, your arm broke, your leg pulled on.
Mm-hmm.
So, but when you're in there and the guy or girl says, are you ready? You're ready. You don't have time to be nervous anymore. So it's pretty much, you got to click in yourself. So the 3rd fight, this past one, December 2019, I was a lot less nervous because what helps with the nerves is the understanding that you put in the work. Every day I'm doing something at different levels to different degrees in regards to that night in September.
Yeah.
So a rush of emotions. My father's going to be there. My brother's going to be there. A bunch of people I know are going to be watching. But I know if I can do what I intend to do and am capable of,
oh yeah,
I think I can do well. But my father's been a big influence. My mother, of course, a big influence. I have 2 sisters, 1 brother. But, you know, so much goes through your head, Brian. It's hard to understand, and no one can really understand it unless they've experienced it. But all it is 5 rounds, 3 minutes, doing something that I've been training to do for almost half my life at this point. So I'm excited for afterwards because, you know, we'll talk about Kris, but Kris Moutinho, local fighter, just fought Sean O'Malley, UFC 264. He had a great quote in one of the embeddeds, the episodes. He says, I'm not guaranteeing a win. I'm not guaranteeing a loss, but I'm going to guarantee you fight of the night.
And he gave fight of the night. I will say that.
And I think I'm going to echo those words in regards to this fight, because we're going to be two high-level guys,
Just
or
going
at
to
least
war.
technical guys, engaging in a mixed martial arts fight. So that's what it is.
Yeah, kind of going off this, in terms of the person you're competing against, is he kind of similar to your style, or is he more of like a classic striker? What kind of a matchup is it going to be in this fight?
So he has a bunch of experience. He's 5-0 as a mixed martial artist.
Okay.
But he's also had kickboxing matches, grappling bouts. He's 5'11", so he's taller than me.
Okay.
He's very good on the ground. Brown belt, I believe.
Okay.
Good everywhere. Good kickboxer, good wrestler, good jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
He's been out for 3 years. I don't have a bad word to say about this guy.
Yeah.
He seems like a very nice guy. He trains up in New Hampshire, and we've got a bunch of mutual friends on Facebook. I actually sent him a message saying, all respect this way. Hope everything goes well with your training camp. So his name's Romano Medina, and if I lose, couldn't lose to a nicer guy, I think.
That's awesome. One of the things you were mentioning, in part of getting these fights together was, you didn't fight in 2020 due to COVID. Unfortunately, COVID has been a topic I've had to talk with multiple athletes about, as it really has kind of changed the dynamic in which they've kind of had to train and do things in a certain way. I really haven't had a chance to see how it's kind of affected the mixed martial arts world. But I'd have to assume it's similar to football, which is, a highly contact, very close to people. How did you have to kind of adjust when the pandemic became what it became?
So, of course, we had to close for a while.
Yeah.
And then when we came back, there had to be guidelines and definitely some changes to make.
Yeah.
But we pushed through it. And then MMA and any combat sport, you're with a team.
Yeah.
But it's an individual sport.
Yeah.
So what can you do? I like to run a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So like today I ran 3 miles, felt good about it. It was one of my fastest times so far this summer. And, 3 5-minute rounds on a heavy bag. You can do things. It just takes discipline, determination, hard work, and realizing you have a goal that you're trying to get to. So we got through the COVID stuff.
Yeah.
And, I think we're doing all right here. It sucks that some places seem like they're taking more changes, steps back. There's supposed to be a UFC show in Madison Square Garden in November. And there's some doubts about that right now because of the idea of, vaccination and things like that, verification. But we're through it now. And up in Vermont, I have to go through all the medicals and
and one of the things I will say, up in Vermont, it seems that they, vaccinations seem to be pretty high up there. So it doesn't look like they will. Hopefully, knock on wood, they won't be. It seems like they won't be taking those steps back that other places kind of have had to. You talked about discipline when it came to COVID. Was that kind of discipline was something that you kind of had ingrained before the pandemic came down, or was it something that you kind of had to develop as things were unfolding?
Well, you have to understand what you want.
Yeah.
Or what am I doing? Like, what do I like? What do I enjoy? Why am I here? Like, all these questions. I think I'm a kind of a deep person in the sense that as I got older into my 20s, starting, working overnights, I started to read a lot. Became passionate about history, American history, and then politics. And I think as athletically interested as I was, I tried to become intellectually as interested in the world, society, how it functions, who's in charge, why do things happen. I've always been very interested in how things are structured. And so that's why I like to read and I like to run. And those are two things that I really like to do. I don't know what the original question was. Discipline. My father, he didn't play a lot of sports. He was a hardworking guy, still is a hardworking guy. But he talked about you got to have like a killer instinct. You got to have like a no fear factor. And that's perfect for this type of sport and event. When I was an athlete playing baseball, basketball, golf, cross country, track, I was like tenacious with everything. Maybe over the top too much. People are like, Joe, calm down, relax. I've heard that. Relax really gets me going. But I've always been like that. Like I coach my coach in high school was Coach Donnelly, Jim Donnelly.
Okay, yeah.
He coached for Millbury now, but we coach together for Millbury Unified,
Mm-hmm.
which is kids with special needs who play sports. So we do track together, we do basketball together, and what he instilled in his team and how he was, the intensity, like how he was. I loved it, and I wasn't the greatest offensive player in basketball, but I was a defensive mind, and I played hard.
Mm-hmm.
And I was the type of guy, hate you're on your team, but you love to have on your
Oh
team.
yeah.
So, and then that translates to how I roll and how I fight. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I talked about the discipline aspect. Are there any other kind of lessons that martial arts has taught you, and maybe other sports as well, but specifically kind of martial arts? Is there any other lessons, maybe like humility, other things like that you've kind of had to endure because of maybe struggles or even the triumphs of it?
my favorite fighter is Habib Nurmagomedov.
Mm-hmm.
He recently retired after
Yeah,
he beat Justin Gaethje.
yeah, guy was a beast.
So I constantly watch him, not just him fighting,
Mm-hmm.
but how he speaks, how he carries himself, how, his mold.
Mm-hmm.
And he always talks about you have to stay humble, and humble and have humility, but enjoy the process and realize there's a bigger picture here.
Yeah.
I used to do some kids classes and like a lot of energy for that, but it's always about taking using your knowledge, using what you have, and making a positive impact with it, whether it's around the people who are training with you or just people in general. I'm a people person. I very much enjoy the human interaction, but there's so many lessons to be drawn from something like this. You're constantly pushing yourself, you're constantly doubting yourself, but that's what makes you want to do it and do it again, you
Mm-hmm.
know. Um, but there's so many things that I could talk about in regards to how it feels, like getting your hand raised, but it's all about the process, man. So who you meet,
Mm-hmm.
people meet their wives, people meet their, long-term friends, and I think as the sport grows, and as jujitsu grows and grows and evolves, more people will get that experience, and that's why I'd like to do some programs within either where I work or just, you know, around eventually that,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because a lot of people are aren't grateful,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of people are struggling. There's a lot of pain out there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of uncertainty, a lot of doubt within people, and martial arts is great for that.
Mm-hmm.
We all need something, right?
100%.
This is something I need, and I can't quite explain it, but it's just something I have to do. I know I can't sit around. Like I'm restless, like my father is kind of. It's a gift and a curse, but mostly the lesson of just being grateful, staying humble, training hard, and setting goals and go and get them. I don't know how long I'm gonna do this. Like I said, I mean, it could be I have a great night or a terrible night and I'm done in
Mm-hmm.
September, or it could propel me to something else. But we're gonna do one day at a time, one run at a time, one roll at a time, one spar at a time,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm looking forward to it. Tomorrow is gonna be great. If you want to talk about Kris, I'm going down to where he teaches jujitsu, and then he's gonna work with
Okay.
me in my stand up,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm so grateful to him.
Yeah, I was actually gonna get into Kris because you were talking about people who you've met and different things like that. Obviously for anyone who hadn't watched UFC 264, one of the fighters that has been really interested has become really interesting across the UFC bantamweight division was Sean O'Malley. He's kind of really elevated himself, and when I saw that he was fighting, when I was like, I was getting ready to watch his next fight, and I ended up seeing that he's fighting a guy from Milford, Massachusetts. I'm like, wow, this is pretty incredible. And I'm watching this fight go down, and he ate a lot of punches. He ended up like he survived a long time in that octagon. He was and he was given his back. And after the fight, I really gained a lot of respect for this guy. Saw him go on the Pat McAfee show, do some stuff there, which was really funny because I'm a pretty religious watcher of that show. I really like that program. But then I ended up going on, and it was very soon after that Chase told me about about you kind of doing your martial arts, And, just kind of looking through your Instagram, I end up seeing one day that, you're training with him. I'm like, what? Like, how did this kind of come about? Like, how did that kind of a relationship, develop over the years?
So I've known him for over a few years now, more than
Yeah.
a few years. And he used to train at a place called BST.
Okay.
Uh, and, you know, I don't know how it happened, but we had connections between this gym and that gym. And he had some guys fighting. He was fighting. And I reached out and I kind of was like, I'd love your help. I'd love for you to, just spar with me, be with me. And so that's where it started, like probably mid 2019
Okay.
that I really met him. And at the time, he was 7-3-1. He was a pro fighter, kind of a big name on the local scene.
Yeah.
But I remember they had a cage there, which was great because it's good to train in a cage. And
Hmm.
I'll never forget the first time sparring with him. Legitimately, like intimidated / scared because I wasn't the best stand up guy,
Hmm.
and like he just doesn't stop coming, and he's there. So I like found myself like scurrying away and like trying to defensively fight, but
Yeah. From watching that fight, I found out that it's very difficult to knock that guy out on his feet.
yeah. And of
I was
course,
like, my
and of
God.
course, well, in sparring, we're not trying to knock each other out.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
But he's just been so helpful because of his humbleness, his nature, the way
Hmm.
he carries himself. He's a funny guy.
And
Like,
you can see that like just through the interactions that he's had in the media. So I can only imagine what it's like with him in person.
yeah, like I said, he's 28 years old. He's got big things ahead of him. I know he's got plans and specific stuff he'd like to do. But yeah, a few years ago we started, and I was grateful to him who helped me out, and it just gives me confidence, working with a guy like that, and I'm really getting good with my boxing, and he holds the mitts, and I love when he holds the mitts for me. So and we roll jujitsu too, so it's
Mhm.
great.
That's awesome.
And make sure you check him out, Kris Moutinho.
Yeah.
All right, Instagram,
No.
Kris is soulless.
Yeah. I mean, the man is a monster. I would love to be able to talk with him one day. But he's kind of going off that. I was watching some of the fights with Kris and whatnot, and he seems just like a really funny dude. And I don't know, it was really cool to see kind of a local guy at that stage. I'm really pumped that he did get that 4-fight contract from the UFC. So I am excited for what happens next with him. Kind of going into it though, trying to figure out what I kind of want to go with here. Uh, I was kind of looking down at this, and besides the guys like Kris, you were talking about doing some shout outs during the show and talking about some specific guys. Are there any kind of like, other individuals rather who you would like to credit your kind of success and your growth to?
Um, I've met many UFC fighters.
Yeah.
But if I was gonna thank or be gracious towards anyone, it's every one of my training partners. And I wouldn't say one specific person. We have tremendous instructors here, Coach Max, Coach Fritz, Coach Jesse, all of them. Very down to earth. They're all black belts. They could strangle you, but you wouldn't know that
Yeah.
by going and have a beer with them. You know, it's just a high level instruction here of jujitsu, and I'm tested every day here. I mean, I'm not the best guy for sure in this gym. I'm a brown belt, pretty good, but there's many guys better than me, and some girls give me fits too. So, uh, but just you get a sense of what it takes.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think I'm doing what it takes to like with the intention of being like that pro fighter anymore. Like, I'm not trying to be the UFC champion of the world anymore.
Hmm.
When I was 16, that was my thought process. I always talked about it. But I'm 31 years old now. I work with kids with special needs. I host trivia. I work for World Championship Grappling, where we, put on shows and I do commentary. I do fighter weigh-ins and interviews. Um,
I can already tell that is that has to be a specialty of yours. Like just the commentary, I feel like you got to be electric on that line.
yeah, it's always been natural. I don't mind speaking. Like,
Yeah.
I don't mind talking. And like I said, I'm on the mic every night. I like to think I'm performing.
Yeah.
So when I get under these bright lights September, it's a different type of performance. But I'd like to think that the 1,500 so odd fans that will be there won't get to me, and I'll just do my thing, and then hopefully have a beer afterwards.
Yeah. Hopefully you have your hand raised and do kind of that whole thing afterwards. Before I get into the kind of final question of the day, one of the things I did want to ask about was, certain fighters have, kind of, can be very religious about kind of the things that they do before they go into a fight. It's tough for me to think of exact ones right now, but maybe there's like a certain way they want to go around. They want to go around the octagon. Maybe there's a certain, kind of thing that they want to do beforehand. When it comes to you, is there anything that, that you try to, do before each fight? Is there kind of a, kind of ritual that you have?
I'm not superstitious.
Yeah.
There's nothing. I just try to focus on what I need to do to get going.
Mhm.
Break a little sweat, warm up, stretch appropriately. These things. I'll probably wear the same shorts that I haven't lost in yet.
Mhm.
Hopefully not losing. I could definitely upgrade, but I probably won't. But other than that, no superstitions and no rituals. This is like most things in life, especially sports, it's mental.
Yeah.
This is a mental process. I know what I can do physically still at 31. I'm not 21 anymore, but I know what I can do at 31. So it's a mental game. And like I said, I couldn't be more thankful to people helping me out. Josh Saper, my striking coach over here. Kris, of course, helped me with my striking as well. Dan Simler. Come on down to Team Abusado, 3 Brussels Street, right near Holy Cross, right near Rotman's Furniture, and come play Wise Guys Trivia and tune into my fight. It's 3 hours away. It's in Barrie, Vermont.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand a lot of people aren't going to get up for that, but
Yeah.
there's an online pay-per-view, which is only $20, and
Yeah.
I actually posted it on Facebook today.
Okay.
I'm Joseph McNeil, McNeil on Facebook,
Mhm.
and on Instagram, and I'm fairly new to Instagram.
Mhm.
I missed that train like 7 years
All right.
ago,
Don't even worry about it.
but it's lowercase everything, Joseph McNeil 529,
Mhm.
and I'll post stuff every now and then. I used to be like very much into politics and history and stuff like that, posting, but
Yeah.
I found that it's kind of exhausting and kind of pointless to a certain extent.
Mhm.
I'd love to engage with people on serious topics of the world and existence and life, but you have to do it in the right way. And I've learned that the hard way many times. So many times I go on a first date and my mom says, Joe, no religion or politics. It's like, oh man, I've been hearing that for so long, but she's right. And I don't jump into it. It's just,
Oh yeah.
it's just like a natural type of thing that you want to see where someone's at. But
no, yeah. I mean, it just, I mean, it depend. It really kind of determine a lot about a person. It's those inherent values and things that people believe in. It really kind of does define a person. And I think that, to kind of for you to recognize that is I commend it. Yeah.
well, yeah. So I don't know if we're running out of time. What do you got? A few minutes, or is this about it?
I got a few minutes left. I do actually have kind of one more thing I want to ask before we get into the final thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
But you were talking about, at age 31, you kind of know, what your physical limits are, while you may not be 21 and so on like that, to kind of, have that kind of a mentality, like, is it saying like, I still believe I can do the things I can do when I was 21, or like, what are kind of the things that you believe? I mean, you're not 41, you're not 51. You're pretty much in most athletic in most forms of athletics, this would still be considered a prime of one's career, at age 31. So how do you feel about yourself physically, and compared to those earlier years?
But by fight time, and even closer than that, I'm gonna be in the best shape of my life.
Mm-hmm.
I know that.
Yeah.
There's some aches and pains, but that's part of a fight camp.
Yeah.
And actually I had a scare back in May or April
Really?
where I hurt my foot pretty bad. Actually, right over there, rolling with a guy, and I was nervous. It was broken. Turned out to be no break, but I was on a boot for a while.
Yeah.
So other than that, we're fine. My weight's good. I'm eating healthy.
Mm-hmm.
No drinking anymore. So physically I'm there. It's just mental.
Yeah.
It's like envisioning. So many visualizations. You go over situations in your head. You think about the worst. You think about the best. But I live a busy life.
Yeah.
As in, I'm rarely at where I live in Auburn, because it's school, if not practice after, a few hours of rest, and then trivia. or training.
Yeah.
And maybe after this fight, I can take some time and maybe travel somewhere. I'd love to travel. Like Vermont's a great place. I'm just not going to be able to enjoy it the way I want to.
Quick little thing. If there's one place you could travel, after a fight, what would it be? Anywhere in the world.
I'd like to go.
No money involved, just wherever.
No money?
Yeah.
I've always liked the idea of going to Brazil.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's the very delicate. America's becoming Brazil, but it's a beautiful country. I've always loved to go. Maybe I could train down there. Scotland.
Get with Anderson Silva. Get with the boys. No.
Or anywhere. Just a nice place where I can relax and enjoy the people around me. Go swimming. I love the water.
Yeah.
Greece would be nice. But that's just all. It comes with, the discipline of not just training, but saving money, not spending. Joe, you could go out, but maybe you should save some. Or you could do this, you could do that, but what's the right thing to do? And as you get older, and I learned it way too late, you have to understand what's worth your time. Who am I with? Who am I surrounding myself with? Is this beneficial for me? Is this detrimental to my development?
Yeah.
And then as you discover who you are, you do a lot of self-examination. You realize what the things you should be doing are.
Mm-hmm.
So I very much am passionate about the work I do at this school. I feel like I'm very good with kids. I love trivia, but it's something I don't want to do the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Hopefully it can open some doors. I love to sing. I like to dance, do karaoke, Brian.
Yeah.
I remember when we
I remember the bus. I still have the videos. No, I'm joking.
I wouldn't mind it. Yeah. I wrote that song. I wrote 2 songs myself.
Oh, I remember.
One's pretty good.
I remember them very vividly. Very ingrained in my mind at this point.
Yeah.
But I think that kind of is a good transition to the final question. As as a fighter and just as an individual, what are some goals that you have for yourself? Both inside the octagon and outside. I think that was the final question I had for you today. You said that you may not be going for like the UFC title shot and doing all that and whatnot. But just as an individual inside, when it comes to MMA, what would be a goal that you think you could attain?
So in and out. Let's say I do well.
Yeah.
Let's say I win my fight. Rex, the promoter, he talks about how you could probably do a few pro fights. That's even looking too far down the line. I don't know if I'm gonna do pro fights.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see what happens in regards to that. But after my fight, probably take a few days off.
Yeah.
Come back to training and just keep training, keep learning, and just enjoy it. You can be a champion, but you have that comes with responsibility.
Yeah.
And you don't want to take yourself too serious.
Yeah.
That's been a problem too. Take things too serious or overreact or be petty, but it's just a waste of time. A lot of, that movie A Bronx Tale. The worst thing in life is wasted talent.
Mm-hmm.
And outside the mat, continue work at the school. Not many people know, but I have my preliminary license to teach history.
Mm-hmm.
My MTELs. I passed my reading and writing.
That's awesome.
I used to have political aspirations. I say used to because I think I've become so knowledgeable about how the system works,
mm-hmm.
and it really makes me kind of down about a lot of things. A lot of apathy sinks in when you realize what really goes on and why. But that being said, the powers that be love apathy from the masses because then they can do what they want. That's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, it's very deep.
Yeah,
it's very deep.
But that's true, and who knows? I'd like to get into local politics, or at least be involved and continue working for World Championship Grappling, spread my name, and then hopefully maybe be an MMA judge or MMA ref or MMA manager or a behind-the-scenes guy or commentary. I feel like I'm fine on the mic. It just takes hard work. You got to know some people, and in this life, people say you got to do things on your own, pull up your bootstraps, but you know what? We need people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we need a helping hand to a certain extent in this life. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for a certain person who said, try out this place or get into this or let me show you this. And I think we have to understand that because I feel like conversation is dying in this country.
Mm-hmm.
people don't know really how to have a good conversation, especially when it's people who disagree with each other.
Oh yeah.
You do circles, and then ultimately you try to entrench yourself in what you already believed. So if we can focus on realizing who our enemies are and not do this stupid infighting, we can come to a conclusion that we're not that different. We're all here together. We're not here long, Brian. On this little rock in a small
Yeah.
small area of the universe. So that's how I look at things. I mean, and every 100 years in this world, there's a different set of people.
Mhm.
So it's like, what imprint do you want to leave? Who do you want to be? Joe Rogan talks about be the character of your own movie, make your own scenes, write your own chapters. And this next chapter should be exciting. And I can't wait to embrace it.
I can't wait. I can't wait either, Joe. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Brian. Appreciate you.
It was an amazing interview. Great time talking with you today.
Down to the Wire podcast. Brian Costal, fastest kid around.
I really appreciate it, Joe. Thank you so much for today. If you guys are not following Down to the Wire on social media at this point, what the hell are you guys doing? We're available wherever you guys can find podcasts on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Music. But the main hub you can reach us through is our Instagram. You can follow that at down.tothewire on Instagram. Again, at down.tothewire. Joe, thank you so much again. It was an amazing time talking with you. I wish you the best of luck in your fight this September. But from Down to the Wire, I'm Brian Costa.
And I'm Joe McNeil. Thank you so much.
And we'll see you guys next time.